double booking myself today. What is that? I love V8s. Okay, so right now I'm doing a friendship series, but I decided I'm gonna add a little something to, I guess, spice things up, because I feel like I'm definitely neglecting some communities that could be benefiting on this channel. This video today goes out to all my couples, those in a relationship, intimate, passionate, what have you. And I really hope that this can be beneficial for you, because these were some of the first rules that I learned when I was becoming a therapist. These were some of the rules that applied to a lot of relationships, friendships, but this one's gonna be more honed in on couples. Today I'm gonna teach you or express to you what it looks like to be in a mentally healthy relationship when it comes to your interaction with your person. And I'll have 8 different tips, so I think this could be beneficial for you. It was fantastically beneficial for me, and I wish I would have learned it earlier in my life. So here we go. The very first thing I want you to know in how you know you have a mentally healthy relationship is having open communication. And this one might seem like an obvious one, where you hear people say, oh, we have open communication, we have open dialogue. But I'd really like to break down what that really means. For a moment, I want you to think about a football game, and you have referees that are on the play. And referees throw the flag when they see a dirty play, or when they see there's too many players on the field, or something unfair is happening. This is what I want you to focus on. It's you and another person, and you're trying to feed what? The relationship between you. And if there's something that goes on in the relationship between you that's unfair, uncalled for, somebody needs to throw a flag. No, you're not gonna pelt them with something. I want you to focus on how you can approach each other in a way that's open, honest, responsible, respectful, and you have responsibility, and so does the other person. But you're not gonna have that unless you have that open discussion first. It's unfortunate that as a human species, we can't read minds yet. And some of us may think we can, we just can't. We can't crystal ball our way out of this and tell the future or assume what our partner is thinking. We just can't. The moment we do that, we're losing. The relationship is losing, they're losing. Rather than trying to jump in their mind, articulate what you feel and think instead. And being a part of that open communication will bring on disagreements. And disagreements doesn't mean that your open communication sucks. I would say it means that there's a truck. I would say that makes your communication that much more stronger, because you're testing out the waters. You're really trying something different. I think yes on this, you think no on this. We disagree. Can we keep this going? Can we agree to continue? Can we agree to negotiate and practice discussing this more? Tip number 2, intimacy. Intimacy is investigating the deeper roots of each other to understand likes, dislikes, personal things, maybe even deep secrets. Intimacy is about that closeness. How can you develop that over time? A good question to start this dialogue is to ask your person, have you expressed to me what you'd like to be closer with? And maybe even asking yourself, have I expressed to my person what I'd like to be closer with? And what I mean by expression is needs and wants in the moment, in the short term, and in the long term. You want to try to have that shared meaning, because what are we doing here? What's this relationship about? That's intimacy, and those are the heavy questions to ask. And what comes next should be no surprise to you. Whenever I talk about intimacy to my clients, they always jump to sex. And I pause them, and I said, okay, so intimacy to you means sex. And so great, we start a dialogue from there. But without intimacy, it can be hard to do the next thing, which is physical affection. Sometimes I'll ask couples, who initiates? Do you like what they do? Do you enjoy it? To what degree do you like it? What do you enjoy doing for them, and vice versa? A lot of physical touch, physical affection can also do with nonverbals in some relationships. A lot of relationships, they verbalize it. Some relationships like that spontaneity and non-verbalization. You still want to be respectful about it. And so it's fantastic to discuss boundaries when it comes to physical intimacy. Because there's one thing when you're trying to have that open communication and intimacy to get to know each other, but physical touch is on a deeper level. It might require more questions, dialogue, open communication, understanding one another to develop that closeness, that trust, that honesty, that respect, that responsibility, so that each of you can feel as comfortable as you can, taking strides towards those goals of growing closer physically. Remember, without open communication, without intimacy, your physical bids, what you're trying to get, can show your partner something different. It can tell you something different into what you're wanting. Talk, communicate, develop, negotiate, and then continue that. It's not just this one and done process. This is how you can grow closer physically. Understand one another. Understand the wants and needs for physical attention. The good news is that, as you'll hear on this channel, practice makes progress. Forget about perfection, don't even think about it. And so the more that you practice these nonverbals, the more that you practice what you are verbalizing, the more that you practice these ongoing cues, you're gonna get to know each other a bit more. And each of you are gonna give each other like different signs to understand one another. And if you're a couple watching this, you may already know what I'm talking about. This next one always gets a lot of the couples that I work with. It even got me in my own relationship, is fairness and negotiation. What this is about is what I've been talking about this whole time, is that open dialogue, but you want to be fair about it. A lot of times when I talk to my couples and they're arguing back and forth, neither are listening to one another. It may seem that way, but they're not. I always call it the reloading principle. As one person is trying to explain the argument, the other person's already loading up their figurative verbal gun, and as that person finished, they're like, bang, got you. And that's not open dialogue. That's not compromise. That's not negotiation. A good question to ask yourself is, can you and your person disagree and move forward? Just like how you might agree on something and move forward. Not every party's gonna be happy. But how can we compromise? How can we negotiate? How can we decide to have this conversation once and this type of conversation over time? Are there things that are gonna be off the table topics? Are there things that are gonna be always on the table that we both can agree on? This is what fairness and negotiation looks like. It's not me, my phone just ran out of storage, which is why it just froze. It's really hard to shoot these videos when your phone only has 32 gigs. Okay, back to fairness and negotiation. The point here is not to have my way or the highway type mentality. That right there will get you in trouble. And that right there will be a sign that there's something unhealthy going on, because the assertiveness levels are now going to authoritarian, into this is my way and your voice doesn't matter in this. You get the gist. It's a snowball effect from there. So rather than reloading your figurative verbal gun, put it down on pause, really hear them out, and repeat back to each other what you heard. I heard you said that you think that I don't like you because I don't hold your hand. That's not the truth. Let's talk about this. Versus, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But the other person, this is their reality for their moment. And it's good to test those realities, to discuss about it, to negotiate, to see how fair this can be. And fairness starts with just giving each other the room to discuss this openly, to try to understand one another so that you're both winners. Not that there's one winner and one loser. That's no way to have the relationship. And disagreements, like I said earlier, aren't a bad thing. You contend with one another, you work together, you're trying to see who's gonna come out on top when you want the relationship to come out on top. So agree, disagree, but know that you two will walk together after this disagreement, or being more agreeable with each other. Together is the option that you wanna pick. This next one's really good. It's about shared responsibility. And just like how you have to have shared responsibility when you communicate, such as having a balanced level of dialogue, think about chores, think about your daily activities that you do, think about work, think about children, think about finances, think about what is shared and who has the responsibility of what. You know, you got that old, theme of, the stay-at-home wife, working husband, and all of that, but as every single day passes, it changes for every single relationship. Things aren't really like the 50s anymore. Although there's some people I do meet that they enjoy that, and okay, more power to you. But there are a lot of people who take a more egalitarian approach when it comes to who works, who doesn't. We both work part-time, full-time. Who does what? You want to start doing this? I want to start doing that. When would we like kids? Do we want to adopt? There's all these questions. And then we go on the side of that into things that we do within the home. Laundry, chores, gardening, all that stuff. And we can go past the superficial stuff too and go right to the gut. Do you feel you give as much as you take when it comes to the relationship and your shared responsibilities? Ask yourself that question. Talk about it with open dialogue to develop that intimacy with your person. Does your significant other take or give more than they should? Talk about it. Does that bother you? Does that bother the relationship? Talk about it, because there are going to be things that are going to bother you that are not going to bother them, and vice versa. The point is to have an understanding on where we're at and how we can help each other along the way. There's going to be certain strengths that they will have that you won't, and vice versa. Capitalize on that. Use those strengths for each other. All in all, when it comes to that, it never hurts to ask. It hurts to assume. Number 6 is a biggie, and I think it's an obvious one that a lot of people say, but I don't see it all the time in relationships, which is respect. Respect can be anything from appreciation, honor, recognition, taking personal responsibility, and letting the other person know you are worth it. And a big one in here is letting them know that you have value. A good question to ask yourself and your significant other is, do you feel valued in this relationship? Talk about it. And ask each other, what does value mean to you? Because definitions, they're important. They help us navigate into different territories. Each of us will have our own level of degree of the definition of what respect means to us. Like, respect to me means to hear me out and to repeat the gist of my message, because that lets me know that they're listening to me and that I'm worth listening to. Respect to other people, though, could be more actions, or it could be more affection in other ways. It could be a different love language. You don't know. Don't assume. Have the open dialogue about it. The next portion of this is trust and support. Just like respect, we want to have trust for each other. You want to have that support for each other. You want to have that confidence that you can rely on that person, and vice versa. Support, just like trust, is believing in that person that they'll be there for you and that they can recognize how much support you need because you've had that open dialogue. They'll ask you, what is it that you need from me? Which is a great question to ask if you're not asking it. And this is a big one when I talk about shared meaning with a lot of my clients. Do you have trust and support with one another when it comes to each other's current jobs, career prospects, your dreams of your future? That dream, insert here, of your life. Do you feel that responsibility to show that level of trust and support for them? If not, there's something to work on, because it'll help you, the other person, and your relationship between you. I think the goal for this one is to really have that genuine feeling that someone believes in you without a shadow of a doubt. And they challenge you too in areas that you might struggle in, but they believe in you still. And they also believe that you can talk about it with them too. That's a good thing. Lastly is my favorite one. It's honesty and responsibility. As you've heard me say through all of these steps, is to be honest is to be direct. You want to have some finesse with it and you want to be open about it, but there's a way to approach these things. And responsibility is you owning something that you've done, said, thought, felt in a way that can share to the other person that you're trying to empathize with them. Taking responsibility also means to minimize all those excuses you have, making them very small and maximizing on the things that you did so you can take responsibility over it. And there might be some things that you have kept or that your other person has kept from you or from the relationship that can hinder it over time. It might not be as helpful as you think. It might sting to share something in the moment, but it's good to have that open dialogue. And with responsibility, when you say that you're gonna do something, they just wanna see that you can follow through. I'd wanna see that. And if you're struggling to see that in your own relationship, you now have something else to talk about. And with all of these steps that I'm discussing, when I say talk about it, I definitely don't mean, let's sit down for the next 6 hours and discuss how you've not been honest with me. Versus, here's what I'm struggling with. How can we understand each other? Here's the plan of action. Let's act it out. Let's have these things come to fruition. And let's try to do this all within 5 to 10 minutes. It's a lot. But again, it's not a one and done thing. This could be a date night. Get creative with it. Every Thursday you can have a date night, half an hour to discuss a few things. Then after that, you just have dinner, enjoy each other, and finish out your date night. Obviously, all these 8 signs that you're in a mental, healthy, relationship, they're not final. There's gonna be a ton of other things out there that can let you know that you're in a mentally healthy relationship. So there you have it. That is the 8 things, the 8 signs that you should look out for to let you know if you're in a mentally healthy relationship. And here's the good news. Not every relationship will tackle and have all 8 perfectly. Remember, trash perfection, it's all about progress. And if you're at 0% when it comes to taking responsibility, work on that. Let your person know, I'm gonna work on this for us, for you, for me. The good news is that if you're missing a few areas, you have some work to do. You have a place to start at. This is your baseline. That's what this channel is about. How do we work with where we're at to get to where we wanna go? How do we work with the self now to create that ideal self for the future? The actions you take now and the follow through that you tell your partner are very important. So try to take this video, set it into motion, take at least one of these signs and see if you already have it nailed down. If so, bolster it, strengthen it, practice it. Let the other person know that you want to strengthen it, bolster it, practice it. I really appreciate you checking out this video when it comes to the 8 signs. I hope it was as helpful for you as it is for me, because making these videos is a strong reminder in areas that I'm weak in, and that's okay. You admit it, you take responsibility, you move forward, tackle it, have an action, act it out. Thank you again for tuning into the channel, and remember, take care.